My name is Aiden, and I should have known something was wrong the moment I walked in and heard her screaming. Don't touch my phone. You don't pay for it, so don't you dare touch it. I froze in the hallway. Her voice had that edge, the kind that made your stomach knot and your chest go tight. I wasn't even 2 steps inside the house when she stormed around the corner, waving her phone like a weapon, eyes wild like she was ready to kill. You went through my messages, didn't you? Say it, Aiden. Say it. I didn't flinch. Not this time. Not after everything I'd swallowed. Instead, I looked her dead in the eye. You left it open. I didn't have to go through anything. You were laughing with Derek. About me. Her lips curled. That little smirk. That smug, heartless grin she gave every time she thought she had the upper hand. And God, 4 years, she did. Oh, so now you're jealous of my boss, she sneered. Maybe if you made something of yourself, I wouldn't have to get my excitement somewhere else. I took a step closer, not backing down. I built our life. I covered your loans. I got up at 5 a.m. every single day while you were still dreaming about Gucci bags and private jets. Don't you ever question my worth. She let out a laugh, cold, ugly, poisonous. Your worth? Please. You're a glorified assistant manager at a tech shop. You think that's enough for someone like me? That was it. That was the moment the fuse snapped. You're cheating on me, aren't you? She didn't answer. She didn't have to. The way her arms folded. The silence. The way her eyes darted, not in shock, but in calculation. And then she whispered, like she was bored, like this wasn't about to change everything. Check your email. Confused, I yanked my phone from my pocket. Opened my inbox. And there it was. Subject line, dissolution of marriage, immediate filing. No warning. No conversation. No decency. Just a PDF attachment and a timestamp. Filed 2 hours before I even walked in. She stared at me, proud of herself. So sure I'd crumble, beg, plead. But I didn't. Instead, I smiled. The kind of smile that made her take a step back. Because she had no idea what I had on her. Not yet. She didn't know that I'd been keeping screenshots. That I'd recorded the late-night phone call she had with Derek where she bragged about siphoning money from her own department's budget into a fake vendor account under his name. That I'd saved the emails. The hotel bookings. The corporate credit card bills. 3 minutes after that divorce email hit my inbox, I hit forward all. To her entire office. The CEO. HR. Her co-workers. The board of directors. Every single skeleton she thought she hid in the closet, I lit them on fire and tossed them straight into the spotlight. She lunged at me. You psycho. You think they'll believe you? They'll never. They don't have to believe me, I said, stepping away as my phone vibrated nonstop. They'll see your signature. Your receipts. The audio where you laugh about using company money to cover your affair. This isn't about belief, Madison. It's about proof. She screamed. Threw a mug at the wall. Shattered it just like she shattered our marriage. I kept walking. Right past the broken glass, the lies, the fake tears she suddenly tried to pull out. Because the truth? This wasn't new. This wasn't sudden. This was years in the making. I was the one who stayed up when she was working late. I was the one who smiled through forced dinners and fake sleep while she slipped out to get some air. I was the fool who believed that love was enough. But love means nothing to someone who only loves power. And the thing about power? It shifts. The moment the truth comes out, the real truth, it changes everything. And this? This was just the beginning. So yeah, she thought she was smart, divorcing me by email. She thought she'd walk away clean, reputation intact, with a payout from a man too stunned to react. But I'm not the man she remembers. Not anymore. She wanted war. She got one. And by the time the dust settles, everyone will know exactly who she is and exactly what she did. Because sometimes silence is kindness. But other times, silence is cowardice. And I didn't survive this long just to stay quiet. After the screaming stopped, there was this silence. Not peace. Not relief. Just a cold, hollow stillness. Like the kind that hits right after an explosion. Your ears still ringing. Your chest still heaving. But nothing left to say. She didn't chase me out the door. I think, deep down, she knew she didn't have to. Her war wasn't about love. It was about image. And I just set fire to hers, publicly, permanently. I sat in my car for maybe 10 minutes. Didn't turn the engine on. Didn't even check the new messages blowing up my inbox. I just sat there, gripping the wheel, watching my reflection in the rearview mirror like I was waiting for it to break. How did we get here? How did I get here? You don't start a marriage thinking it'll end with forwarded emails and screaming matches over fraud. You started with vows. With late-night drives and shared Spotify playlists and dreams about little kids with her eyes and your laugh. At least, I did. But I guess she had different dreams. Madison wasn't always like that, or maybe she was, and I just didn't want to see it. When we first met, she was electric. Ambitious, stylish, confident in a way that pulled people in. She could light up a room just by walking into it. And I was the guy in the background. The safe one. The guy who always showed up on time and paid bills early and knew how to fix the Wi-Fi when it broke. I used to think that made me dependable. Now I think it made me disposable. There were signs, of course. There always are. Little things. Missing credit card charges. Guilt disguised as mood swings. That one Christmas she said, "Can we skip gifts this year?" And then posted a brand new designer purse on Instagram with a self-care caption. But love makes excuses. And I loved her. I really did. So I swallowed every doubt and forced a smile when she kissed my cheek instead of my lips. I blamed myself when she stayed late, assuming I wasn't enough, not thinking maybe someone else was. I kept trying to fix it. Fix her. But some things aren't broken. They're just rotten. I didn't realize it until a few weeks ago. Until that night she fell asleep with her phone open on the couch. I wasn't looking for anything. I just wanted to plug it in so the alarm would go off in the morning. Then I saw his name. Derek. Her boss. And the messages, they weren't vague. They weren't flirtatious. They were explicit. Ugly. And worst of all, calculated. They were laughing about me. Mocking my clothes, my job, the fact that I still packed her lunches. Calling me the charity case husband. Saying I was too dumb to catch on. That was the moment something inside me cracked. Quietly. No yelling. No confrontation. I just changed. I started documenting. Saving. Watching her carefully. Letting her think I was still that same blind fool making pancakes while she snuck off with her corporate boyfriend. I played dumb. Until today. And now she was exposed. I finally glanced at my phone. The lock screen was a storm, 47 missed calls, a dozen voicemails, emails flooding in faster than I could scroll. One from her CEO. One from the company's legal department. And three from her. The first one was rage. How dare you ruin my career? You'll regret this, Aiden. The second was panic. You don't understand what you've done. Please don't send anything else. The third? Apology. The subject line just said, please. I didn't open it. Some apologies only come when the lights turn on, when the roaches are forced to scatter. I started the car and drove. No destination in mind. Just away. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just felt empty. Like someone had scooped out everything I was, every good memory, every shared laugh, every silent hope that maybe, somehow, this could have been fixed. But this wasn't a misunderstanding. This was surgical. She planned it. Lined up the documents. Laughed behind my back. Built a second life in the shadows of the one we shared, then tried to walk away clean like none of it mattered. Like I didn't matter. But here's the thing about people like her, they forget that the quiet ones are usually the ones paying attention. The ones they think are weak are often the ones waiting for the right moment to strike. And I struck. Not out of vengeance. Not to ruin her. But to survive. Because you don't just come back from betrayal like this. You rise from it. You burn the old version of yourself down and walk forward as something stronger. Sharper. Wiser. By the time I pulled into the parking lot of a small coffee shop across town, the emails had reached 100. I scrolled through one. It was from someone named Jenna, one of her co-workers. The email was short. Just a single sentence. We always wondered how she kept getting promoted. Now we know. Thank you. I sat there, holding my phone, letting that sentence sink in. Maybe I wasn't the only one she used. Maybe I wasn't the only one who stayed silent for too long. But I was the first to speak up. And suddenly, that didn't feel like loss. It felt like justice. They always say secrets have a way of coming out. But no one ever tells you how fast it happens. The moment I hit send, I expected a ripple. What I got was a tsunami. By the time I walked into my apartment, not our apartment, mine now, my phone was vibrating nonstop. Emails. Notifications. Missed calls from numbers I didn't recognize. A few from people I hadn't heard from in years. But the first voicemail that stopped me cold? Was from Derek. Her boss. Her boyfriend. The one who used to send her money under the table and coach her on how to manipulate company performance reviews. The one who called me low class in a message he accidentally sent to her group chat instead of just her. His voice was shaky. Panicked. Aiden, we need to talk. Please. You don't understand the legal. Look, if you want compensation, we can figure that out. But this could hurt more than just Madison. It could ruin me. Just call me back. Compensation? He thought I wanted money? No. This wasn't about cash. This was about truth. And sometimes, truth is more expensive than any payout. I didn't call him back. Instead, I walked into the kitchen, made myself a cup of coffee, and watched the storm I created unfold online. My inbox had screenshots forwarded back to me from people in her office. Some were furious. Some were grateful. A few were just stunned. Apparently, Madison had enemies. More than a few. Turns out, she'd been running her little empire through manipulation, lies, and favors she pretended were innocent. Promotion here. Bonus there. All the while keeping her record spotless while others got blamed. And me? I was her cover story. The devoted husband. The rock. The man she used as her moral compass while she got drunk on power and pride behind the scenes. Until I flipped the compass. I'll never forget the headline that popped up late that night. Corporate VP Madison Elridge resigns amid internal ethics probe. Just like that. She was out. No farewell statement. No press conference. No goodbye post with some motivational caption about new beginnings. Gone. But that wasn't the end. Not by a long shot. The next morning, someone knocked on my door. I expected maybe a neighbor. Maybe even Madison herself, finally deciding to scream in person. Instead, it was a woman in a navy suit. Sharp eyes. Cold voice. She flashed a badge. Mr. Cade, we'd like to ask you a few questions. About Madison Elridge. And about the evidence you shared with her employer. I let them in. 2 agents. Internal affairs. One from the company, one from a compliance oversight firm. Apparently, there were suspicions even before I dropped the bomb. Whispers. Complaints. But no one had the guts to investigate someone as respected as her. Until I lit the match. I handed them the file. Every message. Every bank transfer. Every disguised vacation labeled as team building. And when I was done, they just sat there. Staring at each other. Then the younger one said something I'll never forget. You do realize this could turn into a federal case? I nodded once. I hope it does. And then I asked a question of my own. How many other people did she bury to protect herself? They didn't answer. They didn't have to. I already knew. Later that evening, after everything quieted down, I went for a walk. Not a fast one. Not to burn off rage or hurt. Just to breathe. I ended up outside her building. Not on purpose. It's just muscle memory, I guess. For so long, her life was my life. My schedule revolved around hers. My plans bent around her career. But now? I stood outside like a stranger. The building looked the same. Cold. Impressive. Glass walls and stone columns. Like it was built to make people feel small. I leaned against a bench nearby, watching people come and go. And then I saw her. Madison. Hair tied back, makeup smudged, wearing sunglasses even though the sun had already set. She didn't see me. But I saw her. The way she moved fast, head down, like she was trying not to be noticed. No assistant. No entourage. Just her and a manila folder clutched in her hand like it was a lifeline. She looked deflated. No sparkle. No pride. No fake laugh echoing off the lobby walls. Just a woman who finally realized the house of cards she built was never stable. I didn't say anything. I didn't need to. Because she already knew. She felt it. You can always tell when someone knows their story just ended and you're the one who closed the book. Later that night, I got one more email. From a girl named Marcy. She worked under Madison for years. Never promoted. Always told she wasn't leadership material. But according to her message, she was actually the one who proposed the expansion model Madison got credit for. She wrote, "You don't know me. But I want you to know what you did. You gave a lot of people like me our voices back. We were too scared. Too tired. Too ashamed to speak. But now the silence is broken. Thank you." I read that email 3 times. And then, for the first time in months, I smiled. Not a big, triumphant grin. Just a small one. Because maybe, this wasn't just my story. Maybe I wasn't the only one she betrayed. And maybe the fall of one selfish person could be the rise of many others who deserved more. I thought the worst was over. I thought pressing send on that email was my breaking point. But betrayal, it has layers. Sometimes it sleeps quietly in places you thought were safe until it wakes up and bites you where you least expect it. It started 2 days later. I was walking out of the gym, earbuds in, mentally making a list of groceries I needed when I saw him. Darren. My best friend since high school. Best man at my wedding. The guy who gave the toast and cried harder than I did when Madison walked down the aisle. He was standing by my car. Not waving. Not smiling. Just waiting. Like he knew I was about to learn something that would hurt. I pulled out my earbuds and stared at him. "What are you doing here?" His voice was low. Almost guilty. "We need to talk." I didn't want to hear it. But something in his face, that same nervous twitch he always got when he was hiding something, told me I needed to listen. We sat in my car. No music. No AC. Just the sound of my breath growing shallower with every word he said next. It wasn't just Derek. I blinked. What? He looked down. Wouldn't even meet my eyes. Madison, she wasn't just sleeping with her boss. There were others. One-night stands. Trips. Conferences. Some she bragged about. Others she tried to hide. But the thing is, I knew. The silence in that car was suffocating. I knew, and I didn't tell you. My stomach turned. You knew? He nodded slowly. I thought she'd stop. I thought she'd come clean. And, honestly, I didn't want to be the guy who destroyed your marriage. I laughed. A hollow, bitter sound. You weren't trying to protect me, Darren. You were protecting her. He winced. No, man. That's not. Don't man me. You were the only person I trusted when everything fell apart, and you let me stand there looking like a fool. You let me defend her. Again and again. She said she loved you. Don't you dare. She did. In her own twisted way. And I figured, as long as you were happy. That broke something. Happy? I was miserable. Isolated. Gaslit in my own home. And the one person I turned to, the one person who could have saved me years of pain, stood by and kept his mouth shut. And now he wanted forgiveness? I didn't yell. I didn't punch him like I wanted to. I just opened the door and stepped out. He called after me, voice cracking. I didn't mean for it to go this far. But it did. Because lies don't stop growing once they're planted. They spread. Rot. Until even the people you once held closest become strangers with matching faces and unrecognizable hearts. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on the floor with an old photo album one Madison made during our first year of marriage. Our honeymoon. Our dog. Dinner parties with friends. Her hand always reaching for mine. And now every single smile looked like a performance. Every kiss? Staged. Every laugh? A distraction. I flipped the pages slower, wondering how much of my life was real. And the truth? Not much. I was a placeholder. A trophy. A background character in her career movie. And Darren? He was the guy behind the scenes, holding the camera, watching it all unfold and choosing not to hit pause. So I made a decision. The next morning, I started writing. Not a message. Not a letter. A statement. I took everything I had, every email, every receipt, every voice note, every memory, and I wrote the full story. Not just the parts about Madison's work scandal, but the human parts. The pain. The gaslighting. The nights I sat alone in a marriage that looked perfect from the outside. And I published it anonymously. I titled it, The Man She Married vs. The Man She Lied to. Within hours, it went viral. People didn't just read it, they felt it. Men and women from around the world flooded the comments. This was me. I thought I was crazy too. Thank you for writing what I couldn't put into words. And somewhere in those replies, I found my voice again. A few days later, I got a call from a podcast. Big show. Millions of listeners. The host was a trauma survivor turned advocate, and she asked if I'd be willing to come on and talk about emotional manipulation from a male perspective. I hesitated at first. But then I thought, maybe it's time someone did. The episode aired on a Tuesday. By Thursday, the company Madison worked for released another statement, this time not just about her, but about a review of other executives, citing a pattern of toxic leadership behavior that had gone unchecked for years. The dominoes were falling. And I didn't have to push anymore. They were collapsing on their own. But just when I thought I'd finally carved out peace, that this was the end of the story, I got one last email. No name. No subject line. Just a single sentence. You think she told you everything. But there's one more secret buried in your prenup. My heart stopped. I opened the file. Reread the legal document I'd signed years ago without much thought. Just pages and pages of legal jargon that felt meaningless when you're in love. But this time, I read it differently. And buried deep in one of the clauses right near the end was a paragraph I'd never noticed before. Madison had inserted a discretionary clause allowing her access to a joint business development account, an account I never knew existed. And when I traced the routing numbers, $47,000. Gone. Moved. Not to Derek, but to a private account overseas. Months before the divorce. She didn't just betray me emotionally. She robbed me. She planned it. Down to the last dollar. Down to the timing of her email and the fact she sent it 3 minutes after the transfer cleared. Suddenly, everything made sense. The rush. The cold tone. The precision. She didn't leave in anger. She left in victory. Or at least, she thought she did. But now, I had the final piece. And I wasn't done yet. She thought she was done with me. She thought I'd crumble, fade, move on quietly. But people like her forget something. When you take everything from someone who gave you everything, eventually, they stop being afraid to lose. And that's when the real fight begins. I didn't scream. I didn't threaten. I got focused. First, I forwarded that prenup clause to a lawyer friend, one who specialized in corporate fraud and international transfers. He took one look and said, "You've got her." Then I called the IRS. That $47,000? Never declared. The moment she touched that joint account and moved the funds, it became taxable. And guess what? The company she worked for had a policy: any executive under investigation for fraud or embezzlement would have all bonuses frozen, assets frozen, and be barred from any severance payout. That's right. Madison didn't just lose her job. She lost everything she was trying to keep. But I wasn't finished yet. Because she didn't just steal money. She stole years. She stole trust. She stole my peace. So I gave her something back. Something no one expected. It was the day of her company's reorganization meeting. The CEO was flying in. The entire upper staff would be present, and since Madison had been one of their faces for years, her reputation still lingered in that building like perfume after betrayal. At 10:03 a.m., every single staff member got a message. From me. No subject line. Just a clean email body with my name and 3 attachments. 1. A folder of her financial activity and how she exploited her role. 2. A breakdown of how she manipulated people internally to protect Derek. 3. And finally, a video. Not one of her and Derek in bed. No. Worse. A video of me sitting at my desk, explaining in full detail how the woman who built her brand on leadership and loyalty had spent 5 years gaslighting her husband, stealing from their joint accounts, manipulating her peers, and lying to her staff while hiding behind a polished smile. I looked directly into the camera and said, "This is not about revenge. This is about the truth. I won't yell. I won't call names. I'll just leave you with this. If someone lies so easily to the person they swore to love forever, what makes you think they wouldn't lie to you?" Send. It went nuclear. The email hit every corner of her office in seconds. My inbox blew up with messages from staff, some who thanked me for confirming what they suspected for years, others who apologized for ever believing she was someone to admire. An hour later, I got a screenshot. Madison's LinkedIn? Gone. Her name scrubbed from the company site. And as for Derek? He was quietly removed too. But the real moment. The real finale came that evening. I was at a cafe, sipping a quiet espresso, finally breathing again, when I looked up and saw her. Madison. In a black coat, no makeup, hair tied back. She looked smaller somehow. And for the first time in years, I saw it. Not power. Not control. Just fear. She walked up to my table like a woman who finally realized the only person who ever truly knew her was the one she betrayed. "You ruined me," she whispered. I leaned back in my chair. Calm. Measured. "No," I said quietly. "You ruined yourself. I just stopped covering for you." She looked away. "I made mistakes." I nodded. "No. You made choices." Silence. Then she sat down, almost pleading. "You said you loved me." I looked her in the eye. "I did. Enough to believe in you when no one else would. Enough to forgive you even when I knew you were lying. But love without respect? That's not love. That's self-destruction." Her eyes welled up, but I didn't flinch. She could cry now, sure. But she didn't cry when she sent that email. She didn't cry when she emptied our account. She didn't cry when I slept alone for the 10th night in a row while she worked late. So I finished my espresso and stood up. "You sent me a divorce by email." I paused. Leaned in just enough for the final strike. "I sent the truth to your entire office." Then I walked out. And I never looked back. Not because I didn't care. But because I was done caring for someone who only cared when it was convenient. In the months that followed, I rebuilt. I focused on myself. Went back to therapy. Started writing full-time. And the best part? That viral story I posted? It got picked up by a publisher. Turned into a book. A bestseller. Turns out, people are hungry for truth. And I had more to. Sometimes, the person you trust most is the one who teaches you what betrayal really looks like. But betrayal doesn't have to be the end. Sometimes, it's the beginning. Of clarity. Of strength. Of becoming the person you were always meant to be. She thought she buried me. She didn't know. I was the seed.